Hi, welcome to Scrapbook Superstore's Tuesday drop-in demo. I'm Marty, and today we're going to talk about heat embossing. The most important thing when you're going to do some heat embossing is to have the right equipment. The heat gun, the embossing heat tool, is very important. You want something that heats up relatively quickly and holds the heat, so that's one of the most important things. The second is, of course, the embossing powder. There are several different kinds of embossing powder that can give you a matte finish or a sparkly finish or a distressed finish. Just depends on what you want to use. And there are examples of all the different kinds where you can use a brilliance ink and then a distress embossing powder, a very glittery embossing powder, a foamy embossing powder, and then again a sparkly one, and I'm going to demonstrate that today. The second most important thing is what kind of ink you use when you ink your stamp in order to emboss an image. What you want to use is a pigment ink as opposed to a dye ink, and no matter the brand, it will say on it pigment or dye ink. So that's the key to look for. Pigment inks are juicier and wetter, and they hold the embossing powder better. You can use a dye ink in a pinch, but it won't dry as fast, and I don't think that it holds the embossing powder as well or as long. So you want to use that. The best thing, if you don't have and you don't want to make a collection of colored pigment inks, is to use a watermark stamp pad. And this one by Versamark is the absolute best. It lasts for a very long time. And when it does start to dry out, there is a re-inker. And all you do to re-ink these pads is to take and just put a few little drops on. And again, it lasts for a very long time. So let me show you how I'm going to do one of these. Remember, when you're figuring out embossing an image, what kind of paper you're using, because you are going to put a fair amount of heat on it. If you use a regular cardstock, that's fine. If you use a very thin piece of paper, that is not going to hold up quite as well. When you use textured paper, be sure that you pay attention, because you will not have as clean and crisp an image. Let me show you what we're going to do. You take your stamp and the Versamark pad, and the way I like to ink these is to turn the stamp upside down and tap the Versamark on. Put your stamp down and press, and don't be surprised that it will stick to the paper. So instead of pulling it off, let the paper either fall off or just peel it gently so that you don't have smudging. Then you take whatever embossing powder you're going to use and very generously sprinkle it on top. And don't worry, you're not going to use all that in your image. Turn it upside down, flick it off, and then finally take your embossing tool and hold the tool a couple of inches away, and as soon as the heat starts to melt the embossing powder, you'll see the image raise. And again, this is a glittery embossing powder, so you'll see the glitter right away. It doesn't take very long. I think you can see it. And one thing people do worry about is that the paper will buckle or curl. And that's because you are holding a good amount of heat on a piece of paper. All you need to do is go to the back of your paper, a couple of swipes, and that will straighten it right out. And that really is all there is to basic embossing. You can get all kinds of lovely looks. And in another demo, we will use some of the newer distress powders and some of the very different kinds of embossing powders, but this is just the basics today. So visit us on Facebook, upload your images, bring your projects in. We would love to see them and share them with the rest of our Facebook friends. I'll see you next time.